Okay, and we're live. Okay. I don't know why in my head, like if I've ever thought about it, I'm like, oh, it's like so easy to just be like da 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 da. But then when you're actually on the spot, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I gonna mess this up? Anyways, okay. Okay. Hello everybody and welcome back to Hometown Mamas. It's just me and Grace today. Sweet Sarah is with her baby girl. Um, and she is doing her mama thing, taking care of her baby. So tonight we're going to talk about things we wouldn't share in mom's group. And we're just going to be talking about thoughts that we've had, and feelings that we've had that, might not be as socially acceptable to share in your little mommy and me group. But probably every mom in there has thought it. Maybe not every, but a lot of them have. So, I will start with a thought that's always resonated with me. Not always, it's gotten better, but for the longest time, I had the hardest time admitting that I just didn't enjoy being a mom. And you're like, whoa, 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 lady, you have 4 kids. You didn't enjoy it. Why did you have more? I love my kids so much. Like, I love who they are, but the the act of being a mom is very overwhelming. The constant, I need you, constantly being on, um, constantly selflessly doing things for other people. And it was just a really hard adjustment for me. And I didn't like it. Did you feel that way as well ever?
Absolutely. I I mean, it's nonstop caretaking, and I think I don't want to speak for anyone else because I know we both stay home with the kids, but I think that does play a huge part in it because you are with them 24/7. Even when they're asleep, you're on call. So your brain doesn't get to shut down like it typically would at night. And even in the newborn phase, you're not sleeping through the night anyway. So I definitely can resonate with that. I have to say though, like the first year of motherhood for me, and I was pregnant most of it with the twins, but I loved everything about it. It wasn't until the twins came that I felt like I was losing a grasp on everything that, um, I started to like find that it wasn't as enjoyable. Well, one, you're not sleeping, so thought patterns are not necessarily like the truth, but when you don't get that break, it starts to break you. So
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
for sure. I think that like I had really romanticized motherhood in my head. And like part of that might be what you see online
Hmm.
because I mean, social media is catered to like this image of like this dreamy cottage core image of dresses and babies in really cute outfits that are never stained with spit up or blowouts. And like, it just, it looked nothing like that. Um, and I think for a long time, I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, why is this not looking like what I had seen, you know?
Yeah,
And I think
absolutely.
part of that is just like a little bit of like naivety on my part. But that's, I mean, that's okay. That like it is what it is. How can you really be prepared for what motherhood actually is? But part of it, like I will say time and time again, social media can be a wonderful thing and it can be a really hurtful thing.
Yeah.
And I think in that way, the romanticization and the only showing the good bits on social media just set me up for a major loss. And
Hmm.
then again, once it wasn't like what I had pictured it would be like, then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm
What's
doing something wrong. Something is
Yeah.
wrong with me. Something is wrong with my
Yeah.
baby. We're just like not fitting this image that is being portrayed. And look at all these moms. They seem so like peaceful and content and happy and fulfilled. And I feel like an overworked rag of a human.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, like I still grapple with those feelings sometimes, and I'm 6 years deep into it. I will say, with time, it has gotten better.
Mm.
As my kids get older, I have found like a lot more purpose in it. And it feels like I think as they've gotten older, I've gotten to see the fruits of the labor and um, all of those really hard moments early on. Like feels so worth it to watch them be big and start making their own decisions and having these like incredible personalities and thoughts. Like, okay, this is what all of it is for. All the servitude and the sacrifice and all of it is for these like incredible little people that they're blossoming into. I know that sounds so cheesy, but they really are like blossoming into the cutest things.
Yes, they are. There's been times where, like throughout my life, when I look back on certain mothers that I have always admired,
Hmm.
they have dedicated so much. And these are grown women, mind you, like their kids are grown. And I always thought to myself, if I did what they did and like dedicated my life basically to them, which it was what we're doing, as
Yeah.
mothers, but that relationship is going to pay off, tenfold when they're older. And I want them to be little forever, but I'm excited to know that, like, hopefully they know that they always have a safe place with
Mm.
mom, and that bond will be there. And it's like, just like you said, like you're seeing the fruits of your labor pay off
Mhm.
when they're still so little. Sometimes it's hard because they're still developing and growing,
Yeah.
not lightning speed or anything. You don't want them to, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful to watch it unfold. But one of the things I wanted to talk about on this episode was this was a couple weeks ago, and I felt like crap when I said it, but it was a weekend, and those weekends are precious for my own sanity and mental health because it's, mama's time for a little bit.
For
And
sure.
just had a work meeting in the morning on Saturday that was like 5 hours long.
Mm.
And I was like, great, like
Oh man.
like there's that day that, I would have really liked to like just, had time for myself. And I was putting our oldest down for a nap. I got the twins down, and he calls me when he gets out of the meeting, and he's like, "Hey, what do you want to do today?" And I felt so bad because Jack, he was laying right next to me, and I straight up came out. I don't want to be around the kids. It sounded so nasty, and I was like, "Damn, I can't believe I just said that in front of him." He's 2 years old. He's not going to remember, but it almost like pierced myself just to hear it come out. But then I have to like think about why I feel this way. And it is like moms need a break. And when you're relying on that and you're like, oh crap, he has a work meeting, we totally forgot about it. That was, on our part, like not great planning. But
Mhm.
it hurt, as a mom, where it's natural to feel that way, though. I just wish the delivery of it sounded better because
Yeah.
he's, wanting to come home to a happy wife. Of course, it's playtime. It's his weekend too, But
Yeah.
uh, he got home, and this is like one of the first times this has ever happened. So I don't want people to think like my life is so glamorous and I'm just out here getting massages all the time or something. But he came home and he's like, "Hey, I booked you a massage today." And I
Mm.
like my jaw just dropped. And I was like,
Wow.
and he's like, "I knew you weren't going to do it yourself." And it just kind of like, I had to like go back and think about it because there's been times that I've said things like that to him, that the kids weren't around. So I didn't feel bad being like, I need a break. Like, I just need to get out. But then I would never go. And I would always have this like guilt
Mhm.
that, you know, well, we should be hanging out as a family, but we're on different sides of the spectrum where he's gone a lot and I'm with them all the time. So I want to be away.
Yeah.
He just wants to be with us. So it was such a blessing though. Like it's the first time that I've ever gone and done something for myself to be away from the kids, and it felt so good. Like, and that
I'm
was the
so
thing. It's
glad.
like just like accepting that that's okay. Like that's okay to have your time. And it's taken over 2 years now to like get to the point where okay, I don't feel guilty about it anymore. Like your mental health matters too. Like doing something for yourself. So that was just one of,
Absolutely.
one of those points where it's like, dang, I need to work on this as a mom to not like say those things in front of them because one
Oh
day they
yeah.
are going to realize what I'm saying and the tone of it too. So,
But our
uh,
kids are resilient, so
yeah,
take heart that like they say brutal things to us, right? And we bounce back from them and
yeah,
we forgive each other. And that is what we're preaching to them is forgiveness. So in the same breath, like they will learn that we are going to make mistakes. And as long as we are teaching them how to be humble and say, I'm sorry, that came out wrong. That is not where my heart actually is. I'm really sorry for hurt your feelings, you know?
yeah,
So, but in the same breath, you absolutely do deserve a break. Please don't feel guilty. I know it's so hard though. It is very hard.
yeah,
I remember, especially when I was in your season where I had a few that were like very little. I mean, I did not have three Irish triplets,
yeah,
but you know, my first two they were like a year and a half apart.
yeah. That's so
And
hard.
it's, you're in the like trenches of just like they're little tiny humans.
Yeah,
And I still considered myself a young mother. I mean, I'd only been doing it for like 2 years. And so, um, but then like I would want to break, like you said,
um,
all I want to do on my weekend is just be someone outside of mom.
yeah.
Like I want to exist as just Danny. Um,
Because you'll
and
hurt yourself if you don't. You,
yeah, you
yeah,
feel like you're going crazy.
yeah,
Um, so one, I just want to validate that feeling, but two, there would be other moms that I would talk to and they're like, "Oh no, I don't want to be away from my kids. Like why would you want to be away from them?" And then the guilt. Like
yeah,
what again, like what is wrong with me? Why don't I feel that way? It took me a long time to get over that and to realize that both can exist and be okay.
yeah,
Like some people can feel that way and that's cool. Like that's cool if that's how you feel. I did not feel that way, and that is also okay and perfectly normal. Um, so just like validating it is okay to want to break. It is okay for the weekends to be what you cling to, especially when you have just little kids like that. I mean, I'm sure like as they get older, it'll still be that way, but
oh, for sure.
particularly when it's grueling days when they're waking up throughout the night and you're wiping butts all day long and snack, 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 snack. Like it
Oh,
makes you
yeah.
crazy.
It's like
It makes you
preparing
crazy.
3 meals, 3 baths, brushing 3 mouths of teeth that don't want to be brushed twice a day.
Oh,
You're not,
brushing teeth is the worst.
it's not, it's like, please just, we try to make it as fun as we can. It's like, we,
It's the
no,
worst. I don't like it. I mean,
there
we
needs to
do
be
it, but
a
it's
camera.
my least favorite part.
Oh my gosh, I'm telling you. I feel like CPS would be called if they like saw us. Like even my dad, when we're here, like he'll come up for breakfast time and like hold their arms down in a loving way, But like
Oh,
you
but yeah,
gotta
you do
give,
have to restrain them and be like, I'm doing this for your own good.
yeah. I just wonder, like, how do dentists like get their kids that young? Do they do the same thing? Are they like,
I'm
no,
sure they do. There's no way their kids are immune to like this weird like it's like they have rabies against, you know what I mean? How like when you have rabies you don't like water?
yeah.
That is the equivalent of like toddlers getting their teeth brushed. They're like
Oh,
it's
yeah,
wild.
seriously. And then today, my oldest, he gets up on the counter and grabs his toothbrush, hands me the toothpaste, and is like, uh huh, uh huh. And I'm like, Oh, now you want to brush your teeth. Sounds good.
I mean, that's a classic toddler. It has to be on their time, in
Oh,
their
yeah.
way. You know,
Uh-huh. Oh, for
they
sure.
can't make it easy. That would not work for them. Oh man, that's so funny.
Gotta love
Um, Another dark thought that I thought I would share. So my 6-year olds have big feelings, big emotions, and so she was sharing some like big feelings and emotions with me the other week, and I was like, I just need to like tell her some of like the things that I've struggled with. It might have been intense to share with her, but I was like, honestly, one time when you were a baby and you wouldn't stop crying, I had the intrusive thought, I'm just gonna throw her down the stairs. Which again, you don't share that with just
Oh,
anybody. But I know I'm not the only person whose brain has like been in like fight or flight and been like, just throw the baby. You know what I mean? Like get rid of the thing that's making you feel so overwhelmed that you don't know what to
right.
do. And I mean,
And
obviously those are the moments when you tap out and you hand them to your husband or
yeah,
you
yeah.
put them in the crib and walk away if you're home alone or whatever. But like we had a friend tell us when we were pregnant with Rosa, my oldest, and he was like, one thing my first kid taught me was I can like comprehend why someone would shake a baby. And they were like, listen, that sounds awful. And you don't shake the baby. You put the baby down, but I get how someone gets there.
Yeah.
And when he told us that, I was like, you sound crazy right now. I was totally judging him, which is why you don't say this in mom's group.
Yeah.
But um then to like actually be 1 a.m. and she's been crying for the last hour and nothing is working. And you're so tired because it's been 3 weeks of this no sleeping thing. And you don't, I mean, like, gosh, especially with your first, you don't know what you're doing.
No.
And you're like, I don't know what to do anymore. Anyways, I like totally get how you can get to a dark place or just like a desperate place. Um, And I think that that is a scary thought to think for a lot of people.
It is. And the reason I'm like shaking my head, like, oh my
Mm,
gosh, I saw a video a couple weeks ago, and it was a mom that had a video in the crib, and she
mm,
was in the crib with the newborn, and it was like the baby had woken up. I think they counted like 9 times, and
mm.
by the ninth time, she literally, the baby was like right there on the edge of the crib, and she was just, you could tell she was screaming, screaming, what else can I effing do? Or, whatever. The husband comes in finally, and gets the baby. But then it kept going throughout the night where she kept getting woken up every 5 minutes, and she was caressing the baby and trying. But I can definitely, like, what you just said with getting to that point, like, it's like you're doing everything you can. And, if no one's ever screamed at the top of their lungs, well, kudos to you, because I've been there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what else can I effing do, And I remember there was one time, I have two things on this. So let me backtrack one. There
Yeah.
was a mom in this near the small town that we were living in Virginia. She had a set of twins and went to jail for killing them.
Oh.
And I know. So I
Mm,
always thought to myself, like, since we've been doing this podcast, like, man, I want to interview her. I know that sounds weird, but
mm,
like, just to be like, were these your thoughts? Because at the
yeah.
same time, it's like, what, did she not? You never know someone's circumstances where it's like, it was she the only one caring for them 24 hours out of the day? You could tell
Mm,
maybe in the area that she was in. I'm not judging, I'm not speculating, but looking at the pictures from the news articles, it didn't look like they were very well off or anything like that. So
mm.
maybe a little bit of lack of education, resources, things like that,
No support.
family,
Yeah.
nothing. So I'm like, was it that, like, how did you get to this point? And I remember telling Justin, like, uh, you know, when it was just me 6 days out of the week taking care of everybody, I'm like, I almost feel like not like I could understand where someone could get to this point. Like you're saying about that dark place where I'm like, I never wanted to hurt the kids. It was always, I'm going to put a gun to my own head because I'm tapped out. Like it makes more sense for me to die and get sleep at this point than like carrying on and living this life. It was so dark and such a bad place, like, and that's when I was telling you guys, like, I got down on my knees. Can't tell you how many times and just prayed, like, God, please take these thoughts out of my head. I don't care what it is. Like, would they be better off without me? Because I'm just like a zombie of a mom, literally in survival mode for months at a time. Like, to this day, like, I I don't mean to sound like anything other than this is just the reality. Like, I knew after getting through those months, I literally can do anything that I put my mind to after that. You know what I mean? I'm like, if that didn't break me, fuck, nothing can break me, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's nuts. But
Yeah.
again, like during that same time, it was a weekend and I was so tapped out. It was like the one day Justin was home. And I just remember everything so chaotic. It was like afternoon. I just was like, like went outside, screamed. And I'm like, if I'm getting to this point, I need to leave. I need to go get in the car and leave. And I remember yanking my keys off the key ring. A wine glass busted on the floor, and I did not even, it hit Jack on the head, like the wine glass when it fell. And
Yeah.
I just remember thinking, like, I can't even be in this moment to clean this up. I know Justin, he's right there. Like, he's going to
Just like
clean
clear
it
it. Yeah.
up. But like, I had to leave. And, it was just looking back now, like I'm not in that space anymore, and it feels so good to like finally
Mhm.
start enjoying like how I enjoyed motherhood the first year. And being back in that space has been beautiful, but I never want to go through that year again ever. So it's like if there's moms out there and it's your first year, it's tough. The second year is like it gets so much better. It does. And
Oh
go
yeah.
outside, yell, go on a drive. If you have the support and resources, like don't feel guilty. Like take a step away and go. Just go. It's okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Uh, Take the help. If
Yeah.
someone offers you help, accept it.
Yes.
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 If someone wants to come wash your dishes, yes, thank you for doing that. If someone wants to bring you dinner, absolutely. I'm so hungry. Thank you. I
Yeah.
think if someone's like, "Hey, can I take a couple of your kids off your hands?" Yes, please,
Mhm.
please take them outside and run them around while I just like do something else other than caretake. I think
Yeah.
that's great advice.
For sure.
Um,
Did
you
you?
know,
Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I had a question for you because this is one of those dark moments and thoughts that like does become a beautiful like
Mm.
story, I guess. But did you ever feel like you I don't want to say like loved or what's the word? Bonded more with your first or more than your other kids? Like did you ever feel like a stronger connection to like certain children? You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I think that's so true. Yeah, absolutely. And that ebbs and flows, honestly, to this day.
Yeah.
Um, I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine because I was like, "Do you have a favorite kid? Be honest. Do you have a favorite kid?" And she was like, they were talking about how it's hard when your kids are in different stages because you're naturally going to gravitate towards one more than the other, but it's going to keep changing, right?
Yeah.
Um, I have felt that way. Yes, when my second was born, and he was just, I mean, like I said before, he rocked our world way more than the first did. And the first already rocked our world, so it was just a lot. He he was a tough newborn, and then we had really like a golden stage, and then his toddler years were rough. Like
Mhm.
the way he was as a newborn, where he would just cry and cry and cry. That's how he was as a toddler, and he would just have these
Oh,
meltdowns. And I distinctly remember thinking, why would God give me this child? I can't handle him.
I'm sorry, I
Why
don't
would
mean.
he give me this child?
Yeah,
No, it's true. It's comical because I thought about that moment today driving home because we just flipped him front facing because
yeah,
he just hit the weight limit, and so I was like looking back and I was like admiring the view of seeing like my two oldest like
yeah,
facing
yeah.
forward, and I was like, and I guess I was just like smiling, and I made eye contact with him, and he just got the sweetest little grin because his
Mm,
mama was smiling at him, and I
yeah,
was just like, God, how could I've ever
God.
questioned you? Like, how could I've ever questioned that he was like meant to be a part of our family? Like,
Yeah,
he brings me so much joy.
yeah,
But there was a time where he was not my favorite.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
sounds so bad, but it was very true. So yes, like as the seasons go on, there are children that they're some of my children I'm like more fond of than others, admittedly.
Oh, that's
Which is
so
so funny.
good.
'Cause do you have siblings?
I have a brother who is a year and a half older than me, and then a half
Uh-huh.
sister who is 10 years older than me. And we
Okay.
didn't really grow up uh, together. You know, the
Okay.
age difference was there.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
I was just gonna ask, like, did you ever joke with your parents, like, which one's a favorite? Because me and my siblings, I have a couple of siblings, and we would always be like, "Who's your favorite? I know who your favorite is. I'm a favorite." And like, they would always, be like, "Oh no, we don't have favorites." Mama, liars. They're liars.
Oh, I would say that, you know, we my sister, my brother, and I, we've all made some pretty terrible decisions, throughout our lives. So
Mhm.
my mom and stepdad like often joke like, who's leading the race now? Who's doing the best? Even through
Mhm.
adulthood. So, uh, you know, that kind of sucks because
Mhm.
I feel like mom, if you're listening, sorry, it's just the truth, but um, I think moms have like a different, more special bond to their boys.
Mhm.
And I don't mean to like, you can like
Yeah,
dive into psychology if you want
sure.
with this or, whatever.
Yeah.
But um, I think it's like the daddy's girl thing and whatnot. My dad and I, we have a super close relationship. So, not bringing like family trauma or like things like that into it, but uh, it kind of sucks, I guess, because I don't want my siblings to ever feel like they're less than or, you know what I mean. There is no race here. And one of the really like sweet things my brother has said to me over the years, he's like, when it's all said and done, it's going to be me and you. And I'm like, yeah,
Wow.
parents aren't going to be here forever, So
Yeah, that's so
yeah.
true.
Do you have siblings?
I do, yeah. I have an older half brother he's like 6.5 years older than me. So it's a similar situation where, he was in our home half of, the week, but he's also a lot older. So, uh, you know, a lot of my memories are him being in his like teenage years, and I
Yeah.
wasn't as cool because I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but then I have a little sister who's 2 years younger, and then a little brother who's 4 years younger.
Okay.
Um, Yes, and so the joke of the family is that my little brother is the favorite.
Yeah.
Going off of
The
that
baby.
totally fits with you saying the boys and their mama.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I know. It is totally a stereotype.
Yeah.
The mama's boy stereotype. I never want my kids to feel like I'm playing favorites, though. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think the
That's
thing
so
is,
hard. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh no, it's okay. I think the thing is that I've never felt like one kid is truly the favorite kid. There are just like I think times where I relate more to one kid than the other.
Hmm. Oh, for sure.
I feel more
Yeah.
connected.
I'm like trying to be more cognizant of like they're still so young, so it's like, the
Hmm.
twins are still not even a year and a half yet, but like
Yeah.
trying to balance out my time between all of them. Like, first of all, it's not even realistic where I would spend 100% of my time with Jack when the twins weren't here. I don't have 100% of that time to dedicate to all three of them. So it's funny. I came across a note in my phone weeks ago that was kind of explaining like how I was divvying up my time. This is from last year, and I'm like, whatever day I notice that I don't spend as much time with, it's like Jack is still 50%, and then the twins were like divided up because Jack was still young. He was only last year a year old, and he still needs attention. So when it's just one person, and I'm like trying to survive, like how do you split your time with all of them? And it was hard because wow, this is like one of those topics that's it's true and it's real. But when, like I said, like Jack was like the light of our lives when we brought him home.
Yeah.
Man, like, oh, it just everything he did, like I didn't mind the wake ups. I just loved every part
Hmm.
of that. And the guilt that I had when I found out I was pregnant, it was so heartbreaking. Like, it's not going to be us anymore. Like, oh no, he's still my baby. What am I going to do? And I felt that throughout my pregnancy. And it didn't end there when I first saw Jack when I came home. My mom and dad brought him to the hospital, which was nice, but it was something different about seeing him in the house for the first time when we came home with the twins. My soul was crushed. I had so much joy that the twins were healthy and just bringing home the new babies. But when I looked at him, I didn't realize how big he had gotten because it was the first time I was ever away from him. My soul was crushed, and I remember just crying for days, like, oh my god, my baby, and
Hmm.
this is what I was going to say, that I'm like, do I share this, do I not? But it's just the truth. When we brought the twins to our house in Virginia, my husband was on paternity leave, and we had the rocking chairs next to each other. He had a twin and I had a twin. And I remember him saying, uh, I just don't feel like I love them like I love Jack. And for a minute, like, I had to stop and like kind of let it settle in what he was saying and not judge him, because I'm like, I feel the same. And that is so hard to admit and to say, but it was true. And it's not that, I don't want to say like love. I think it was just we weren't as connected yet. And then I thought about when we first brought Jack home, in the first few days, like there wasn't this a crazy bond. We had to grow that bond, and
Yeah.
it was time and work that went into it. And with the twins, it was like a week later when we were having that conversation. I told him, like, I feel the same, but it takes time. And that is so true. Like, I can't
Hmm.
imagine ever, like, going back and, like, ever thinking that, like, I
Hmm.
love those twins, like, so much. They are so cool. They are so fun, and they all have such distinct personalities, but we're
Hmm.
still growing that bond and still working on it. And with your first, it's like they made you a mom. Of course, they're not going to
Oh, yeah.
give you that same feeling, So, yeah, that
Yeah.
was tough. And just to hear those words come out
Absolutely.
of my husband's mouth, it has been such a beautiful journey to watch him like grow into fatherhood too, and like play with
Yeah.
the twins as he does with Jack. So it's cool, but it's a growing pain, growing experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what you're expressing sounds very common in the sense of You're not always going to bond immediately with your baby, and that
Mhm.
often feels kind of like an ugly thing. But
Mhm.
I think it's very common. I have a friend who like had admitted that to me and was like, I just like feel like I'm not fully bonded. And I was like, it will come, I promise. You know, now she has like the most beautiful relationship with her daughter. And it's great. And but I think one, props to Justin for being able to say that out loud.
Yeah.
That's a very brave thing to say. Um, and I love that you guys were able to be there for each other in that moment and just be like, yeah, you know what? Like, yeah, I feel that way. But you have the wisdom to say, look where we got with Jack. And like, we will get there with these kids. We're just starting out. And I will die on the hill that bringing home your second, or in your case, second and third, um, is just so immensely hard for the reason of it disturbing your relationship with your first.
Yeah.
Um, because I genuinely think that your relationship with your first is unlike anything you will ever experience again in motherhood.
It's 100% agree.
It's just the most
Yeah.
magical experience. That first kid, like you will never have a peaceful, like quiet house to enjoy just you and your baby again, right? Because when
Yeah.
you bring home
So,
that second, that first kid is like, "Blah, blah, 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 blah," you know what I mean? They're grown and they have needs. And so when you have that peaceful, uninterrupted time with your baby, you know, it just does something to your heart. Like it's special. I think
oh, 100%.
I think what you felt is like a very common feeling.
Yeah. I was
And
scared
just shows that
because I
you,
didn't know. I didn't know, and
yeah.
navigate those things like in isolation too. It's like,
Oh my
um,
gosh, yeah.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's normal. Like my husband definitely had feelings of frustration when our second was born because he had a great bond with our daughter, with Rosa, and to feel like his attention was being pulled in different directions, and he couldn't give her the
Yeah.
full undivided attention like before. It felt selfish and wrong in a lot of ways. And it's just it comes full circle eventually because that second baby gets less and less needy as they get older, right?
Yeah.
And eventually they have a relationship with your first, and you get to watch them play, pretend,
Gosh,
and it's the
yes. Yes.
best. It's so wonderful. And then, so like, eventually you sit there and you're like, oh man, I am so glad. Because, like you said, at the end of the day, like, your three, they're gonna be what each other has when you're gone, you know?
Yeah. Connected.
Um,
Yeah.
yes,
For sure.
siblings have each other for life, which is such a gift.
It is.
Such a gift.
It is
So
absolutely. I
it's
mean,
just
just
hard
watching
to like
him.
think that big picture when you're, like you said, 1 week postpartum. Like
Yeah.
hard.
You're not thinking that far out either, or I think it's just again like it goes back to like sleep deprivation, and some people one is all they can handle, and that's okay too. Like they
Hmm.
might be at a very strenuous job where it takes them away from that, and that's okay too. Everyone's called in different directions, and
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
just fine. But having a second, third, fourth, it's like it definitely throws everyone into a loop, the whole family dynamic. But it's like, just be patient, and that's so hard to tell a sleep deprived mother, like who's just trying to get by, like it gets better, but it does. And it is so beautiful. It truly is. And I'm glad we're having this conversation. I really am. Like, because we know it's been a little rough the last couple weeks, but it's like
Mhm.
everything bad that I feel like we wouldn't say in mommy and me group, like somehow it like turns to like it does get better. And it's okay to have these thoughts because
Yeah.
it it's not it changes. And you know. And here's another thing too. So, um, I
System
went
go.
back to I went back to school years ago for psychology. I fell in love
Uh-huh.
with it. I loved it. And one of the things that I learned, and this always stuck with me, was that your emotions become your thoughts. So if you want
Mm,
to change your thoughts, you have to dive into your emotions and what you're feeling. And that's
mm,
what I did when Justin and I were having that conversation. I'm like, why are we having these, these thoughts? Well, let's dig into the emotions. Okay, the
mhm.
emotions make me feel sad that, I don't have this relationship. Okay, well, let's be realistic. Why don't you have this relationship with your twins yet? They're a week old. Like, so
Yeah.
it's okay to like change your thoughts based on your emotions. You just have to like dig down into the emotions and figure it out. What's coming to surface? Like, and oftentimes those emotions are expressed in our words or, what we're journaling or things like that. So I think that's such an important tool for moms or just anyone really. Like, if you don't like your thoughts, figure out what your emotions are telling you, and not when you're sleep deprived. Like, that's a whole other ball game. That's like most of the time, if you're unhappy or you're sad or something, like just let the first year of motherhood subside a little bit because you got hormones fluctuating. You're trying to figure out a schedule. You're in a brand new life now. It's like that's a little bit different. But like in year 3, 4, 5, whatever of motherhood, and you're still unhappy or like, sad or you're not bonding, like let's get to the root cause of these things. So, you know,
Sure, absolutely.
anyway, I'm not a
Sure, that's
psychologist,
a
but
no, like that is great. But that's like you're saying, if you're getting to 3, 4, 5 year of that, like maybe that's when you contact a therapist or a psychologist and
yeah,
say, okay, like I need this kind of advice. I can't do this on my
yeah.
own because uh what you just said makes so much sense. I have been really trying hard recently to reframe my thoughts. Um, and I have noticed that what has been most helpful is to be hyper aware of my emotions and when
Right.
they're starting, like I'm starting to feel boiling up, right? Like that frustration boiling up, and I can then notice like how I'm speaking towards my kids in those moments. I'm like, okay, whoa, 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 whoa. So I need to like completely backtrack and be aware of when like the first step of that like feeling of like overwhelm hits. And then, okay, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I've got to do something about it because this feeling is going to make me be sharp and mean and say things in a way that I shouldn't be saying it because it's not teaching my kids how to like speak kindly to each other. You know what I mean? On and on and on. So I think that is like such solid advice. And I hope that someone listens to that because it has taken me a long time to even like figure that out on a very elementary level. And you said it so intelligently.
Oh, that's so sweet. But the thing is, too, like, you have to give yourself some grace here. Like, you have 4 kids, and I cannot imagine, it's our plan to homeschool, and we're not there yet, but like, I'm gonna probably be, you know, telling you all the time, like, how did you do this? You are like such an inspiration in so many
Oh,
different ways. Just the fact that one, like how you manage them and not manage but mother manage homeschool, do all
mm,
these things. Like, homeschooling alone is such a huge, like,
mm,
now you're a teacher on top of that too. Like, you're
yeah,
wearing so many different hats. Like, it's so normal to, I feel like, get to that overstimulation frustration role when, guess what, if you were paying someone for all these individual roles, like, it,
yes.
it would be crazy. It would be absurd. So it's like, I think when you
Mhm.
go to like reframe these thoughts, it's hard because you're like, damn, I'm the only one doing it. But then you're like, damn, I'm the only one doing it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm freaking awesome. you
yeah.
know, sometimes it's like, well, for instance, like, men go to work and they get a paycheck, and that is, you know, it's a the physical. reward of their work. With
Mm-hmm.
everything that mothers are doing, again, like you said, like you don't often see the fruits of your labor until later on. So the work that you're doing, it's like, who's noticing? Who's like giving me a trophy? Who's paying me for this? And it's so selfless. And I think that's why it's so important to be like, I'm just a damn badass. If no one's gonna pat me on the shoulder, I've got to do it myself, because
Mm-hmm.
there's days that I'm like, damn, I've got all this done, like I'm awesome. But
Yeah.
then other days, realistically, it's like, I'm freaking drained. Like, can I get a break around here? So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
just normal to go through that. And it's like, it would be so unrealistic every day to just be like happy go lucky, joyful. Like, we're human. And some days we wake up in the flesh, and that's normal and it's
Oh,
okay. And, you know, we're, I think it's just the consistency of day after day. We're showing up, showing the love, doing the routines. That's what sticks with our children, hopefully. And, as an adult now, like, I try to remind my parents, like, thank you so much for doing X, Y, and Z. And sorry to ramble on. It just like
no,
it
no,
stuck
you're
with me.
saying such great things.
I don't know if, well, the story of like when Jesus feeds the 5,000 with, is it 5 fish and 2 loaves of bread? And
It's yeah. I can't remember exactly the
some,
amounts, but yes.
I might have it swapped, but I was folding laundry, and it was at the end of the day. I just got done with dinner, and I was just thinking, like, Lord, like, I don't have any more energy to do anything else. Like, I'm staring at this pile of laundry, and this just shot into my head. And the way that I
Mm-hmm.
thought about that passage was like, Jesus turned a little bit of food, energy, and fed 5,000 people. And the way he spoke to me was like, you take a little bit of energy every single day and you make thousands of meals for your family. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
what
That's so
is this?
beautiful.
Miraculous, that mothers
Oh,
are able to do that. And I
absolutely.
texted my mom, and I was like, wow, this is just how, I thought about this passage, and I wanted to thank you, for like all the sorry, like all the meals that you've ever made for us. Like, thank you so much, so
Right.
it might be 31 years later that we get that thank you for doing that. But
Yes.
it's just amazing, I think, too, how the Lord speaks to us, and at times we don't expect or like want to hear it. But I was like, I've never thought of it like that, So I don't
So
know. It
beautiful.
was just
Absolutely. Thank you for
one
sharing
of those.
that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So it's like whatever, 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish. That's our energy.
Yeah.
We convert it in so many ways to doing miraculous things. So we're
Absolutely. And it
awesome.
is by the grace of God that we do that because
Yes.
on our own, we're just not good at it. But like I think with also like the fuel of the Holy Spirit, like if we are not praying and asking for that strength, um, it's a lot harder, at least for me in my day-to-day life, if I am not praying and actively seeking the Lord, my days are just harder.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I don't want to get preachy on here too much.
No.
But yes, I think that was wonderful. I loved what you said about texting your mom because I can relate to that. When I was pregnant with Rosa, I had a really rough first trimester. First trimester, me, I don't like it. It's the worst. Um, it's the first thing to go. Okay, ugh, I hate it so much. And I told my mom, I was like, I like, I've only been through 12 weeks of this, and it's already so hard. Like, and
Yeah.
you went through so much for me. And on my birthday, you bring me gifts. And that's really nice, but honestly, you should get the gifts.
Yeah.
You put up with all of this and then gave birth to me? And you give,
Yeah.
like, why are we getting gifts? It's so ridiculous. Anyways, so Josh and I, we try to at least acknowledge on our birthdays the work that our moms put in. I remember that first birthday I had when I was pregnant, I like brought my mom a coffee and I was like, thank you. Thank you
That
for
is,
what you went through for me.
that
And
is
Josh
so.
will usually bring a treat to his mama. She likes like chocolate frosties and stuff. So it's just a, a fun realization when you can be like, wow, mom, you were amazing. And it
Yeah.
took me until this point to really have the perspective of how awesome you are. And I think it keeps growing, right? Like, because, sorry, my phone keeps doing this thing. Even that first time, I, I didn't realize all the things that were to come, like all of the
Mhm.
sleepless nights and stuff like that. It was just a first trimester. Anyways, I'm rambling.
No, you're fine. It's funny you say that because Justin literally just said that the other week. He's like, I feel like we shouldn't be celebrating us on our birthdays. We need to celebrate the moms. And I was like, that's so sweet of you to say. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
we just lost a mom in January, but it's so funny that you just mentioned chocolate frosties. That was his dad's last meal that I fed to him, and then
Wow.
one of his mom's last meals too.
Wow.
So we chocolate frosties live in this household
Yeah.
forever.
You can always like do like a tradition, eat chocolate frosties in their memory, you know?
Yeah,
Really
yeah,
sweet
for
tradition.
sure. Oh, that's so sweet. Well, this is a good way to do the outro. I think we're gonna end on a did you have anything else? We've been
No, I feel
talking.
great.
Me too. This was so sweet.
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
guys, thank you for listening to this. I think we're going to do a part 2 of things we wouldn't say in our mommy group. If you guys love this episode, please feel free to share it, subscribe, and just keep supporting. We love you guys. And again, like, you're not alone, mamas. Like, we promise we're here for you. And we'll be curious to hear other people's thoughts too, what they wouldn't say in Mommy and Me group. So with that being said, we're going to tune out for the night. It is 10 something o'clock over here.
Okay.
Good
Good night,
night.
Grace.